Fuck it, going loud.
Hey guys, Sauce here. So this next little bit's going to be the interview that I did with MetaArcade about Cthulhu Chronicles. Pretty interesting looking game. I'm not a huge Cthulhu fan, though I do love the theme of it and kind of the heart behind the story of it. I really like Tunnels and Trolls though quite a bit. I'm a huge fantasy fan, have been since I was a kid, and I've played it quite a bit before work. It's kind of one of my go-tos if I'm there a little bit early. I want something to do. It's great for if you're sitting in like a doctor's office, waiting for a movie, something like that. Just a quick little mobile game you can kind of hop in, hop out of, always pick up whenever you want to, and it's not really heavy on ads or any of that kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? It's great for just a quick mobile game to pick up and play. That's not over bloated with anything you don't want to have to mess with, and it has a great free-to-play model. Well, here's the interview.
Alright guys, so Awesome Sauce here. I'm going to look at Cthulhu Chronicles from MetaArcade. Last year I did something with this for Tunnels and Trolls.
You got it.
And I loved it. Unfortunately lost all the footage, but we're going to go ahead and try and get this one and make sure we get it right this time. And my buddy?
David Reid, I'm the
David
founder.
Reid, that's right. David Reid is the founder. He's going to go through and show us exactly what's going on over here.
Excellent. Yeah, so like we showed you last year, we launched Gen Con our Tunnels and Trolls adventures. This year we're delighted that we have Cthulhu Chronicles and partners with our friends here at Chaosium, as you see in the booth, the publishers of the Call of Cthulhu RPG. Cthulhu Chronicles is similar and different to Tunnels and Trolls. It's similar in the fact that we partnered with Chaosium here to bring a number of their adventures in the Call of Cthulhu space onto digital platforms. And so if you're familiar with Call of Cthulhu, of course you'll recognize the distinctive Cristoforo font in the title of the game. But what you'll also see is there are a number of adventures here that have been published by Chaosium over the years in the pen and paper format. Alone Against the Flames, Edge of Darkness, Dead Border, Blackwater Creek. And most of the time when you play Call of Cthulhu around a table with your friends, it's a pretty short campaign. Everybody dies or goes insane, right? So what we did was we tried to tweak this a bit and allow people to play through a series of these adventures in order, where you start with Alone Against the Flames, the campaign swells and culminates in Blackwater Creek in a bit of an epic conclusion. And we've had to write a couple adventures in the middle to sort of stitch the campaign together and such. And so the result is a combination of some of the classic Call of Cthulhu content along with some new stuff that is playable on your iOS device, your iPhone, your iPad, with Android coming very soon for Android phones and tablets as well. The experience here with the 9 adventures that you've got is you pick an adventure, and I'll start with Dead Border here. So Dead Border is one of the quick start adventures Chaosium has published in the past. You begin by picking a character. And so, unlike Tunnels and Trolls where you create a character, once again, in Cthulhu, characters tend not to live very long, so we created pre-generated characters for you. And each of these pre-generated characters has different biographies, different stories, different things going on. So here we are with Samantha Levington, who is a policewoman, a private investigator and things. And every character has certain stats. So people who are fans of Call of Cthulhu will recognize health and of course sanity. And if your sanity or your health reach 0, the adventure ends and you have to go to the insanitarium and recover, right? But you also have 3 attributes at the top here that are sort of distilled down from the essence of Call of Cthulhu. What we have here is appearance, which is kind of all your charm, your charisma, your personality, your looks. Athleticism, which is kind of the combination of your strength, your dexterity is more applicable in physical combat and such, and then of course intelligence for how you figure things out. And from there, you find yourself in a fairly similar experience to what you may have seen before. Heavily inspired by solo adventure products like a Choose Your Own Adventure book or fighting fantasy game books, Tunnels and Trolls, even Chaosium themselves have this Alone Against the fill-in-the-blank line that they do for solo adventures. You got your art, you've got audio, and you've got your text and your choices. This adventure, Dead Border, begins in the campaign where you've already gone through a couple of these encounters with the Eldritch Horrors. And so what you do now is you've been summoned by the Dean of Miskatonic University to help recover some stolen property because your reputation for dealing with these things has come along. And so as you go through now, you're scrolling through, and people who saw Tunnels and Trolls will recognize one of the big differences right away is this is a portrait mode game, because Tunnels and Trolls is very much it's a very pulpy game, a lot of combat, a lot of skill checks kind of thing, dice rolling across the screen. With Cthulhu, we wanted to emphasize the story, the atmosphere, the dread, the horror, the investigation, the discovery. So as you go through this, you're coming to you're going through the story and such, and one of the things you'll notice here is that a lot of the art that we have for Cthulhu, given the fact that Lovecraft stories and the Chaosium adventures are all set in 1920s, 1930s America, there is a tremendous amount of open source, public domain, archived photographs we've been able to use. And so I'm not sure who this gentleman was in the 20s, but today he's the dean of Miskatonic University here for us.
It's an upgrade.
Yes, and so he, offers you, as given your success as an investigator, he offers you the chance to help the university out on a case. And maybe you are interested in pushing for a better reward. And here's how the core mechanic now comes to pass. Rather than rolling dice as you would if you were playing Call of Cthulhu on the tabletop or if you were playing our Tunnels and Trolls app, we've tried to abstract that down to a more sort of a broadly accessible mechanic for mobile gamers, right? We think Cthulhu in particular has stories that resonate with a much larger audience than just the pen and paper tabletop stuff. So we wanted to build something that worked for the Call of Cthulhu fans, but also went well beyond that.
So with this, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with this, you still use the skill checks and stuff like that, but just not show it. So it's much more streamlined.
We're going to show you this right now. That's how it works. So basically, you've got your three attributes: your appearance, your athleticism, and your intelligence. And now you're trying to negotiate with the dean on a better deal. The character we've got here has a higher athleticism than anything else, right? So we're going to try and intimidate him. But if you wanted to try and use your charm, you could flirt with him. And if you wanted to use your intelligence, you could outwit him. But your odds are best if you're trying to intimidate him. So here's the core mechanic that we use for combat and skill checks here in Cthulhu. We call this the Wheel of Cthulhu. And the dice that you would roll in Call of Cthulhu for percentile checks on skill checks and combat and things like that, all that math is under the hood here. It's based on your skill, it's based on what happened to you in the adventure. If you found a particular thing or not, you might get a buff or a debuff and things like that. And you'll hit the spin. And, as these dice are rolling under the hood, the fates are going to tell you, well, bummer, we failed, right? Even though we took our best stat on a medium skill check, we did not succeed. And, there we go. The dean says, look, you can take the job or leave it, you're not getting a better reward. So in order to keep the story going, you take the job. And so combat and skill checks are all resolved with this wheel mechanic that allows for people who, we know that there are, as much as there is a great audience for the Call of Cthulhu tabletop game, there are millions of people that we would call Cthulhu curious, right? Who might not make the investment in buying big books, don't have a group to play with, aren't going to know the arcana, the rule system, but are going to want to play through these adventures.
Like university story.
Yes, exactly, and it's really focused on that. And so what we've got here is the ability to go through these things. It's not just the art and the narrative that comes from Chaosium, but the audio you're hearing is from Call of Cthulhu contributors like Graham Plowman and Cryo Chamber. So, fans of Call of Cthulhu will find the authentic stuff, and people who've never even played the game, but again, are Cthulhu curious, are going to have a real fun experience here to go through this. The way we've done this is, it's similar to the TNT model where it's a free-to-play game. So you can download it for free and start playing for free. We give you a certain number of free trials every day that let you play through an adventure fully. We give you 3 a day, and they regenerate every 24 hours like you do in a lot of other mobile stuff. And if you get to a point where you're like, hey, 3 plays a day is not enough for me, no problem, you buy an adventure. They're all priced at $2 right now. However, during Gen Con, the first 5 adventures are half price, so they're only $1. And so that's a way to get to play as much as you want without worrying about, do I have to wait for my reloads, my free plays, and things. And that's the gist of it. Now, we did announce at the start of Gen Con 3 big things. One, we already talked about this, that the Android version is in development and coming out soon, so it won't just be the iOS stuff. We had to start with iOS. We're a small team. It's a lot easier to do your QA on a handful of devices and platforms than getting all of Android. We have an Android build that's working, and we're just polishing that up. The second thing we announced is while the first campaign concluded on Thursday with Blackwater Creek's release, we announced our second campaign, Mythos Across America, which will be something of a Lovecraftian, Hunter S. Thompson road trip through strange locales and finding things. And we have a number of authors contributing on that as well. And the third thing we announced is that we have opened up our creators program for Cthulhu Chronicles. Yeah, so we've got, if you saw, a few months ago, we opened up the creator program for Tunnels and Trolls. And so people download our software via Steam for free. They write an adventure. They use our system to pull in art and audio, the branching storylines. They don't have to know how to do anything in the rules. They just bring a story. If you want to combat, pick a monster. If you want to do a skill check, pick the skill check. Nothing to it. Yeah, just super easy. The inspiration at some level is, look, if my mom can create a blog on WordPress, maybe she should be able to create an adventure using our software, keeping it simple. And so we've already published the first 3 Tunnels and Trolls adventures from the community, and we've got people in there now working on stuff. Well, we've opened that up for Cthulhu Chronicles as well. So anybody who has a story that they'd like to tell in Cthulhu, they can sign up for the program, get the software, make an adventure, and we can publish it for you.
How much of the artwork that you guys currently have here is available for your creations?
Oh, all of it, and more, right? You know, it's a much bigger archive than just the stuff that you see right here. Again, we've got all kinds of personalities, like the Dean here. We've got plenty of locations and vehicles and things that are there, as well as all of the art that you've seen in Chaosium's works over the years, and some new stuff that we've commissioned along the way.
So the next question is going to be, can you import your own artwork? So you want to do some custom art?
So we are being very careful on that because of obvious things. Yeah.
Let's just call it what is raw.
So yeah, we're all here. So, but if you have art that you want to submit, you can certainly point us to it, and we can put it in the platform.
Okay,
but we're being very careful with our partners on both fronts would be.
So you can't submit it for being reviewed.
Absolutely, happy to do that. That'd be great. Yeah. And again, it's the kind of thing where, in the same way, I think about how a WordPress for narrative or what have you, right? Think about all the artists on DeviantArt who have been making things. Well, here's a chance to put your art in the platform, to have people use it, and to make some money every time they do. We're really excited about this opportunity.
Sounds great. So my next question is there any plan to expand upon this to add more? I asked you that last year as well. Because I could see this as being something the same with Tunnels and Trolls, where you're sitting down in the living room with a bunch of friends, having some beers. On the big screen, you're playing Tunnels and Trolls and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Tabletop.
Yes. There are so many ways, right? And so, part of what you see here is that we've got it running on a big screen TV, just, being piloted by our device under the table and such. There's no reason why we can't be on the computer and on the console. It's just a matter of time and getting those builds together. Similarly, there's no reason why it can't be other intellectual property. I mean, here we are at Gen Con. There's hundreds of games here that could be part of this. There are tens of thousands of people who write adventures, with their friends, but only get to see the results of that with the 5 or 10 or 20 people that they play around a tabletop with, and now you have the tens of thousands, ultimately millions of people who have these devices who can try it out for free. There's no limit to how this can expand.
So, Tunnels and Trolls, and obviously for this is already on Steam, correct?
Well, the creator is on Steam. Yep. But you do have to sign up, and then we approve it. We give you an entitlement. You can't just go find it.
Okay, that's what I'm doing. So where do we go for this? MetaArcade.com?
MetaArcade.com/creators.
I've got a number of friends I think would be very interested.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, this is what look, everybody here has written an adventure. We all game people who have. And really, as you may remember from last year, this was my whole point of starting the company. I wanted to do something creative again, and I'm not technical anymore. I've never been artistic, but I can write an adventure. I've been doing that for decades, right? So it got me thinking, how could somebody like me, without those skills, write an adventure and turn it into something playable? And that's where we landed. And so far so good with TNT, and off to a good start with Cthulhu, and this is what we want it to be. It's something where everybody who has an adventure and a story to tell can turn it into something interactive that can be played on any device.
Any questions, Aqua?
No, but you're totally awesome. I'm very inspired by you.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Great. Good to see you again. Yeah.
So this is actually my second year interviewing this guy for something they're doing. Last time was Tunnels and Trolls. This time was obviously Cthulhu Chronicles, and he's obviously very passionate about what he does, and that's something that I really like to see in a developer or anyone that's in charge of anything like this, that they have the passion for what they're doing. And if you don't have that, I feel like that's something that's massively missing from any project you're working on, is that passion that really drives it. So I have a lot of faith in these guys. I'm really interested to get my hands on that creator. I'm just waiting to hear back from him right now so I can actually get a hold of that and mess around with that. I'm going to try to actually talk to Horse. He's actually developing games all the time for D&D groups he does where he DMs. I think he'd be even better at it than I would be, but I'm going to try to put together a stream once I get a hold of that content so I can actually, test it out, mess around with it, and of course, get that stuff out there so you guys can try it as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Obviously, join the Discord group. You can find the links for all that stuff down below. See you guys in the next stream.